All right, so today we're going to dive into something that I think is super practical for anyone out there working with industrial automation systems.
Okay.
And that is how to avoid some common pitfalls when you're installing pressure transmitters.
Yeah,
We're bringing this up, in part because of the expertise that we have here at Pakistan Controls and Industrial Automation,
you got it.
but also because, it's something that I think a lot of people can benefit from.
Absolutely. And, I've been doing this for about 15 years now,
Okay.
industrial
Yeah.
automation, and I've seen so many installations. And I've learned that there's a few key things that if you just take care of upfront, you're going to save yourself a lot of headaches down the road.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Right.
So let's jump right in. The first mistake that I think people often make, and we've got 5 that we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
The first one is improper location selection.
Right.
So, this is more than just like, oh, is it convenient to get to this spot?
Exactly.
Is it more than that?
Yeah.
It is, right?
It really is, because where you put that transmitter,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to have a huge impact on how accurate the readings are
Mm-hmm.
and just how long the thing lasts.
Right.
So you got to think about things like vibration.
Okay.
If that transmitter is constantly shaking,
Uh-huh.
it's literally going to wear out the sensor components.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Over time, you're going to get inaccurate readings.
Right.
Same thing with temperature extremes.
Yeah.
If you put a pressure transmitter somewhere where it's way too hot or way too cold outside of its operating range, it's not going to be happy,
Uh-huh.
and it's going to start giving you bad data.
Yeah, and I would imagine also, if you put it in a spot that's super difficult to get to
Oh, yeah.
when it comes time to do maintenance,
Maintenance nightmare.
it's a whole other can of worms.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So let's move on to number 2.
All right.
Number 2 is incorrect mounting.
Okay.
So, does a pressure transmitter have a preferred orientation? Like, should it be vertical? Should it be horizontal? What are we thinking?
It really depends on what you're measuring.
Okay.
So for liquids, generally, you want to mount it vertically with the sensor below the connection point,
Okay, why is that?
because it lets any air bubbles that might be trapped in the system escape.
Ah, okay.
And if those air bubbles are stuck in there, they can give you a false low reading,
Gotcha.
right? But on the other hand, with some gases,
Uh-huh.
you might need to mount it in a specific way to prevent condensation from building up and affecting the sensor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it really does depend on the application.
Gotcha. So we've got to think about, what's in the pipes, what are we measuring, and all that good stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So let's move on to number 3.
Right.
Number 3 is neglecting environmental protection.
Okay.
So we're talking about more than just, keeping it out of the rain, right?
Oh, yeah, much more than that.
Okay.
Industrial environments can be pretty brutal.
Yeah.
You've got moisture dust, corrosive chemicals, all sorts of things that can really mess up a pressure transmitter. And moisture, can get into the electronics, cause corrosion dust, can clog up those tiny pressure ports, and then you're not getting accurate readings.
Right.
And if you're dealing with corrosive chemicals over time, those can actually eat away at the transmitter housing itself.
Oh, wow.
So, those enclosures you see, pressure transmitters and those, aren't just for show.
Right.
They're really important. They're providing a barrier against all those environmental hazards.
So those are, I've seen those IP readings.
Yes,
That's what that's about.
exactly.
It's like how much protection.
It tells you how much protection you have against dust and moisture.
Oh, right. Cool.
And then using the right seals is also critical.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So it's more than just a box. It's like actually protecting the instrument itself.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to number 4.
Right.
Number 4 is over-tightening fittings.
Okay.
So my instinct is always to just, crank it down until it's like super snug.
Yeah, I get you.
But why is that a bad idea when we're talking about pressure transmitters?
Well, it might feel good to really put some muscle into it, but you can
Mhm.
actually damage the sensing element inside the transmitter.
Oh,
It's a delicate little thing, and if you over-tighten, you can crush it, basically.
really?
Yeah, and you can also warp the threads, which can lead to leaks,
Oh, wow.
which is the exact opposite of what you want.
Yeah.
You want a nice tight seal,
Yeah.
but you don't want to overdo it.
Right.
So always go by the manufacturer's torque specifications.
Yeah.
They'll tell you exactly how much to tighten it, and it might feel counterintuitive, like it's not tight enough.
Right.
But trust me, precise tightening is key.
Yeah.
I've seen so many brand new pressure transmitters completely ruined because somebody just got a little too carried away with a wrench.
Wow. Okay, so gentle is the new tight, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And then finally, number 5.
All right.
This is inadequate calibration and testing.
Okay.
So my thought would be, we plug it in, we see some numbers on the screen, we're good to go, right?
Well, not necessarily. Initial calibration is super important because you got to make sure that the transmitter is reading accurately right from the start.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like setting the baseline. You
Right.
got to make sure that 0 actually means 0
Yeah.
and that 100 psi actually means 100 psi.
Okay.
And then just as important is post-installation testing.
Okay.
So you've calibrated it at the bench, but once you actually install it in the field, you got to test it again.
Right.
Make sure that everything's still working correctly after you've done all the wiring and the plumbing and everything.
Yeah.
You might have accidentally introduced a wiring error or
Yeah.
a faulty connection, something like that.
Right.
And if you catch those problems early on,
Right.
it's a lot easier to fix them than if you let them go and they cause problems down the road.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. So those are our 5 points, just to recap real quick.
right.
Improper location, incorrect mounting, neglecting environmental protection, over-tightening fittings, and then inadequate calibration and testing. And all of this really comes from our experience, right? I mean, here at Pakistan Controls and Industrial Automation, we've seen a lot of these mistakes over the years.
Yep. And, if you can avoid these common pitfalls,
Yeah.
you're going to have much smoother, more reliable industrial processes.
Absolutely. So for more information on reliable pressure transmitters and other industrial automation solutions, be sure to visit PAKCIA.com for pressure transmitters.
Okay.
And you know what, guys? I'd love to hear from you. Like, what questions do you have about pressure transmitter installation or
Yeah.
anything else related to industrial automation? Like, leave a comment below, like the video. We're really interested in hearing your experiences and answering your questions.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it, how these seemingly small oversights during installation can have huge ripple effects
Right.
on the efficiency and the safety of these complex industrial systems.
Yeah.
So it's really worth taking a little extra care up front.
Yeah. It pays off big time in the long run.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.